Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lydia, are you doing who's doing roll call?
I can do roll
Okay.
call. So Jim Palmer is absent. Corey Brown.
Here.
Mark Bevelheimer is absent. Frank Deteri, he is absent, but he said he would be here around 2. Andy Gale's absent. He might show up later too. Sarna is absent. TJ Andrews, she's here. Mary Pitcher's here. Bill Perkins is absent. Chris Wood is here. Matthew Cook's here. Christy Trigg is here. And Ty Wessel's here.
So we have our first public comment. If anyone wants to give that, just give your first name and your township and county. We have about 3 minutes to speak, so whoever.
Good afternoon. My name is Robert Laporte, and I live in Elmwood Township. And I'm again going to thank the committee for the shared goals, keeping in mind that our material management plan is a public health initiative. Can everybody hear me? All right, so I want to talk a little bit about stewardship. I am going to be spending 4 days up in Minnesota with the U.S. Biochar annual conference. This organization originated in 2006 in Boulder, Colorado, and it's been growing like crazy ever since. There's probably going to be about 1,000 people at this annual conference. It's going to be like walking into a wedding, seeing all these delicious plates of food and juicy tomatoes and delicious drinks, and it's going to be busy. So I've been asked by a nonprofit to find out how some of the other nonprofits are getting funded, because there will be people all over the country. And then to find out some of the coolest programs, one of that we should bring back and share with the community. And so there's probably at least 20 really incredible high technology new programs that are going to be discussed. So this is so-called Biochar on Site. And I did mention it at one time when I sent out an article that it is an active movement. And not only is it an active movement, it's a tsunami moving all throughout the country. There are nonprofits in Minnesota that are very well able to teach any community how to set up a biochar on site. It's a stewardship program, and I've got a couple notes. I'll make this as soon as possible. I'm sure Lydia will keep me.
You've got a minute
track.
left.
One more?
Yep, 1 minute.
Okay. So this is all about keeping carbon local, where we empower individuals and communities to improve soil health, water retention, ecosystem restoration. Just imagine what if you could create biochar directly where the organic waste is generated, like in the forest or right on the sides of the forest. We have to take good stewardship responsibility for protecting our forests. There's way too much fuel on the floors. We've got to keep all of that in mind. So the agriculture byproducts can also be assisted with amendments in the soil. Communities can reduce wildfire risks, improve soil health, leave cleaner air, sequester carbon without the need for costly transportation or centralized facilities. This is our program, which empowers land management with hands-on education, tools, partnership to turn waste to greener jobs, stronger communities. That's my comment. I hope we keep moving along, accepting this as a possibility for our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Have another one?
Good afternoon. I'm Kristen Page. I'm in Elmwood Township, Leelanau County. I was coming in today because I wanted to let you know and invite you all to come to the compost crawl. So next week, the Organic Waste Diversion Advisory Partnership is hosting a series of tours of composters in our region. We've got a great variety of different operations represented within this. So I have this flyer here, and I've got a QR code if you want to scan to get more details. There's a few in particular that I think are really relevant to the work that you all are doing. So a few I'd like to highlight. On Wednesday, 9/17 at 9:30 in the morning, Interlochen Center for the Arts is hosting a tour. They're going to be talking about using compost to catalyze institutional sustainability goals. They've got a great operation. It's very cool what they're doing there. Thursday, 9/18 at 11 a.m., Goodwill, Northern Michigan Food Rescue is going to be doing a tour. So that one we're calling But First Feed Hungry People. So it's a look into food rescue, a great system that exists in our community that could be grown on as a part of this process. Thursday, 9/18 at 1:30, the City of Traverse City is hosting one. It's leveraging public-private partnerships, and it's featuring the Traverse City in-vessel composting system. Both Seeds, the Traverse City team, and Carter's Compost will be talking about how they work together to support that system and how they develop that partnership, how there's some resources available within the state to help communities develop programs like that. And then Friday, 9/19 at 9 a.m., Emmett County Department of Public Works is doing a tour. Theirs is lessons in community composting. So they're going to be talking about composting in the everyday and in times of crisis. So thinking about, they just went through that big storm debris cleanup and have a lot of lessons coming out of that could factor into our planning and how we look at planning for our communities. So I did send details on this both to Lydia and Matthew if you have interest in learning more. I also have this if you want to scan the QR code for more details. Again, there's 9 events in the area, so lots of opportunity to learn and connect on any topics that are of interest to you. So thank you for what you're doing for our communities. Have a great day.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment? All right, if not, we will have a second public comment at the end of the meeting. Next up is approval of the minutes. They're attached in the packet. I looked over them and I have no issues. Does anyone have any corrections or comments on the minutes? If not, we can take a motion.
Trigg moves to approve the meeting minutes of the August 8th, 2025 meeting.
All right, we have a motion and support. I think we can do a all in favor with aye. All in favor? Aye. All opposed, nay. So there's no nays. Motion is approved unanimously. We had nothing on the, we need to do approval of the agenda as well. Is there anything anyone wants added to the agenda? If not, we'll take a motion for that as well.
Trigg moves to approve the agenda as presented.
Second by Andrews.
All right, we have motion and support on that. All in favor with aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. All right, no, that passes unanimously as well. We had nothing on the consent calendar. We have no special orders of business. Nothing removed from the consent calendar. So first up, we have Aubrey from Eagle with a food waste presentation.
Hi,
everyone. We're getting the presentation pulled up. My colleague Tracy Tomaszewski is the recycling specialist for the Northwest region here, and she's sharing the presentation for us.
Aubrey, could you pull the microphone down just a little bit?
And then thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. So we'll just go ahead and get started. So my name is Aubrey Carlisle. I am the food waste specialist with Eagle. I work all across the state supporting food waste reduction efforts and connecting with materials management planning committees and just working on providing support and resources to increase food waste reduction. So today I'll be talking a little bit more about food waste reduction in this region and how we can get this implemented into your materials management plan and work on some goal setting as well. So next slide. Okay, so we'll start with a little bit of overview of food waste. So food waste in the United States, approximately 30 to 40% of food produced is not eaten. There are significant financial, social, and environmental costs to food waste happening. So we see an average household of 4 is throwing away about $3,000 worth of food each year. And at the same time, we're seeing about 15.4% of Michiganders facing food insecurity. So it's a really significant area to focus on. I'll get more into the details, but focusing on residential food waste because it's a significant area where food waste is happening, but also an area that can benefit community members as well. The environmental impact is also significant. I'll get more into detail about this in the next slides, but we're seeing methane impacts, wasting of resources, of materials that went into producing the food are also ultimately wasted when it goes into the landfill. So next slide, please. So our recycling rate goals for the state are to reach a 30% recycling rate by 2029, and we are well on our way to meeting that goal. But part of reaching that goal is reducing food waste by 50% by 2030. There was a composition study done by the Michigan Sustainable Business Forum that found about 19% of solid waste landfill composition is food waste. So definitely a priority area for the state to focus on to reduce the food in our landfills and reduce that solid waste, but also to meet that recycling rate as well. Next slide. So this aligns with, this state goal aligns with national and global goals as well, aligning with the federal interagency collaboration to reduce food loss and waste, as well as the UN Sustainable Development Goal, all looking at halving food waste by 50% by 2030. Next slide. So I want to talk a little bit about food waste in landfills specifically. So municipal solid waste landfills are the third largest source of methane emissions from human activities. We're seeing about 58% of fugitive methane emissions are from food waste, and about 61% of the methane produced by food waste isn't captured. So there are methane capture technologies in most landfills that once those are in place, they do a great job of capturing that methane and turning it into biogas, and it's a really important component of capturing that methane. But the problem is food breaks down relatively quickly, and so the emissions from food waste are not captured or they're being released before those methane capture technologies are implemented. So we're seeing a lot of that methane gas release before those capture systems are put into place. So while we're seeing decreases in methane overall from landfills from these methane capture technologies, which is great, we are seeing increases from landfill food waste. Next slide. So why do we care about methane? Why is this important? Methane accounts for about 11% of global emissions. As I mentioned, the biogas capture systems are not the most efficient solution for food waste methane. and landfilling does not promote a circular economy. We want food and products to go back into the economy whenever possible, which is, you know, all of the materials that we're focusing on in this materials management planning process, working towards that more circular economy to benefit our economies, to benefit our soils, to benefit our communities across Michigan. And then food waste diversion also increases the life of our landfills. And there are many economic opportunities where sustainability and economic viability can go hand in hand. And a lot of times that isn't the perception. But there are a lot of really great profit center opportunities with composting, with food waste diversion, with anaerobic digestion, with lots of different food diversion approaches that can be met. Next slide. So I'm going to dig a little bit into the materials management planning part of it before I really get, so the rest of this presentation really gets into the food waste reduction methods. And I'm more than happy to talk more about that. But I first want to, because I want to make sure we have time to get to this part of it, I first want to talk about sort of the overall management planning portion of organics diversion. So there is a template that was produced by Make Food Not Waste, and this is focused for county planning to work towards setting goals for organics and food waste diversion. It is linked at the top of this slide, so when you have access to these slides later, I'm also happy to send a direct link to it. But it kind of goes through each of these bullet points in more detail. So I'm not expecting you to read and memorize all of these bullet points right now, but just these are the focus areas of when you're thinking about setting goals for organics diversion. These are just some examples of areas, and then in that spreadsheet it kind of outlines how to take steps to meet some of those goals specific for this region. Before I dig into this, I would love to hear, if we're able to have some conversation here, kind of where this group is at as far as goal setting and planning for organics diversion. You know, what's kind of being worked through here? Where are we at in the process?
So goal setting is something that Trudy, our contractor from Fishbeck, we just discussed the other day that we will have to start goal setting soon. Okay. But we do have some like stakeholder engagement surveys in the process right now, and I think we're really waiting to digest some of that data before we set specific goals. So that's kind of where we at. And then I personally would like you to go over some of like the federal policy or mechanisms, like in terms of food rescue, that are kind of, it makes food waste reduction easier, or it supports it, because I know that there is, I forget the name of it, but there's one really big act that helps like the I guess speed the process along and kind of it helps with legally, right?
Yeah.
Because food waste it can be seen as like a liability, especially when you're doing food rescue.
Yep. Great. You're off on a great start, and I'll get into this a little bit more, but food rescue is an area that we really highly encourage focusing on and prioritizing because it is a preferred pathway of food waste reduction, and we are hoping to have more funding opportunities available through the state for food rescue as well. So we'll look at a few of these real quick on this page, like thinking about understanding your food waste landscape. It sounds like you've got some surveys out already. That is the best place to start to understand what's already happening in your county and identifying the gaps. Where are the priority areas? Where's the low-hanging fruit? What's already happening? Next, supporting existing programs. So knowing who's doing what and how can you support programs that are already in place to be able to have a greater impact of what they're already doing, expanding programming, being able to support increased efforts, and being able to communicate with those stakeholders who are on the ground diverting food waste of what gaps are they seeing and what areas are the people that are in this world seeing as far as where is food going to loss or where is food going to waste. And then once you have an idea of kind of what your landscape looks like, where your gaps are, outlining some metrics that you want to meet. So that'll help, knowing your landscape will help you get to the point where you can outline those metrics and know what areas you want to focus on. And then an easy one that you could probably even start with now is leading by example at the county level. So providing resources on your website, being able to have no or zero waste or low waste events when you do have events, and being able to kind of lead by example and showing the community that this is important to your counties at a county level. And then the next few points are bolded because those kind of are simultaneous, like scaling food waste reduction. Looking at food waste in commercial settings in schools, increasing food scrap collection infrastructure and accessibility, increasing food scrap processing, and then engaging community. The collection, hauling, community engagement, and working with your businesses and stakeholders to divert food waste or food scraps. All of those things kind of have to go hand in hand, because if you're doing a whole lot of work on residential food waste reduction, but residents don't have anywhere to send their food scraps, then, you know, you have to have that end point or the part where it, you know, where the food is going to as you're working on some of those front end and prevention pieces as well. So prevention is also an area I'll get into a little bit more after this slide, but prevention is also an area that can be focused on sooner rather than later, because you don't have to have an end point for the food. You know, you don't have to have a hauler in place or a recipient in place or infrastructure in place to work on prevention. So I'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. And then there's a few more points on here, just best practices as far as ensuring that you have food waste reduction services available to all communities, providing financial support for municipalities, businesses, nonprofits, supporting technology, and then collaborating with your municipalities and providing best practices as well. And then there's a link on here for measuring results. There's a resource through the NRGC that has provided a citywide guide on reducing food waste, and there's some good tips on measuring results in that resource as well. So next slide, please. I'll talk a little bit quickly about some of the EAGLE grant-funded projects. I mentioned that EAGLE is hoping to provide more funding opportunities specifically for food rescue and organics diversion. We are anticipating in the next fiscal year an organics infrastructure grant, which will be focused on organics and food waste infrastructure, supporting programs that are working on organics and food waste reduction or diversion, and a food rescue specific grant as well. We're anticipating coming out in the next fiscal year. And then just a couple programs to highlight quickly. There's the Blueprint to Zero Food Waste that's been put into place in Southfield, and now that is in a more suburban, urban area. But it is a great resource and starting point that could be looked at as a template of how is one city addressing food waste from all ends to work towards a zero food waste community. And that plan has now been replicated by 5 other cities in Southeast Michigan and in the process of being rolled out there as well. We also supported Metro Food Rescue in Detroit to partner with the Detroit Produce Terminal to capture excess food from that point and to be able to distribute it out to communities. That food is being distributed all across the state. And they launched that partnership in May of this year and have already recovered over 1 million pounds of food. So we're really excited to be supporting programs that have these really major impacts in food waste diversion. And, you know, we know every community looks different, but these are just a couple examples of some programs that we are supporting, and we look forward to supporting more programs to continue this work. Next slide, please. So where is the food coming from? As I mentioned, residential food waste is a huge contributor to food waste in our landfills. And then we see businesses and farms as other contributors, but residential is really, I put this slide on here because just to highlight how important it is to focus on some of that residential food waste work. Next slide. Next slide, please. Thank you. Looking at food surplus generators, there's a EPA tool called Excess Food Opportunities Map. This can also help while you're identifying where food waste is happening, identifying what's happening in your counties, and potential gaps of where food waste is not being diverted from the landfill. You can, this is an ArcGIS map, you can filter it to identify where your farms are and distributors and different types of food surplus generators, and they even give you an estimate of how much food they might be generating. Now, this is a EPA national tool. Some of those numbers are estimates, but it is a good place to start. Next slide, please. And just to reiterate, the residential food waste, we're seeing about 21% of residential curbside trash is, or about half of it is compostable, but about 21% is food waste alone. Next slide, please. And some successful programs that have worked for addressing residential food waste, food scrap drop-off sites, curbside pickup, backyard and community composting, so supporting efforts that people can do in their homes, and then food waste reduction and education outreach programs. So another area that we definitely encourage you to look into, especially in the earlier phases of your materials management planning, because it's an area that you can start working on now. Next slide, please. Okay, we're going to get into, how much time do I have?
I think you're still good.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think
okay.
I'll let you know.
We don't have too many agenda items.
Okay. So looking at the EPA wasted food scale, there are preferred pathways to food waste reduction and diversion. So preventing food waste is always at the top. Looks very similar to your recycling diversion preferred pathways as well. So looking at preventing food waste and then being able to donate or upcycle, so taking would-be wasted food and being able to divert that for human consumption. Next would be feeding animals or leaving unharvested. Compost or anaerobic digestion with beneficial use of digestate biosolids. Next would be anaerobic digestion without the use of, without beneficial use, so with disposal of the digestate or applying to land, and then avoiding at all costs would be sending down the drain, landfill, or incinerating. Next slide, please. Okay, so talking a little bit more about preventing food waste. This EPA Food Too Good to Waste campaign is a great tool targeted towards residential food waste prevention. There are a lot of really great educational resources and slides, presentation templates that are on this website. Targeted specifically for food waste reduction. So when I mentioned being able to share resources on your website, working with your municipalities or nonprofits that are doing this work or schools that are doing this work, connecting them to resources like this or being able to provide tools on sharing information on food waste reduction. So this Too Good to Waste campaign is a great tool to be able to share ideas of how people can reduce their food waste at home. More information on how to freeze food or date product that you have, like dating leftovers that you have in your fridge, or looking at best by sell by date. So a lot of good tips and tricks in there to be able to share with residents in your communities. Public education campaigns, supporting waste audits, again, supporting local businesses that are already doing this work, and then community partners as well that are already doing this work. Next slide. Okay, I'll talk a little bit more about food waste reduction through donation or upcycling. So food, as you mentioned, oftentimes isn't donated because of concerns around liability or food safety. If food is not safe to eat, don't donate it. People, want to be able to access healthy and safe foods through food access points and charitable food opportunities. But that being said, there are a lot of great food access points in the area and a lot of food rescue organizations and people that are doing this work to distribute or to capture would-be wasted food that is safe for human consumption that can be consumed. The Bill Emerson Good Samaritan Act is the act that was mentioned previously. This act provides liability protection for donors donating food that is donated in good faith, and that in good faith piece means that it's in good faith that it is safe to eat and in good faith that it is going to be used in the community. So that bill was expanded a few years ago to include donation directly to community members as well. So food can be donated to nonprofits. It can be donated directly to the community. So if there's a sandwich shop that has some extra sandwiches at the end of the day and wants to donate those sandwiches out to community members, they are protected by the Bill Emerson Act to be able to donate that food. If there's a transportation company with 20 pallets of tomatoes that got rejected for how they look, but not for food safety, then those can be donated safely, and they're protected by the Bill Emerson Act. So it covers all sorts of donors from small scale to private residents. So if people are donating from their community gardens, it's totally safe to donate to your local food pantry. And there are several food banks, food pantries, soup kitchens who are direct food access points in the area. So a lot of times connecting like smaller food surplus generators with these local food access points is great, because then they can bring that food directly to the place where it's going to be distributed. It'll get distributed same day. There's also Goodwill Northwest Food Rescue operating out of Traverse City. They do a lot of really great work in this area. They have a fleet of vehicles and are able to capture food from farms, from businesses, from smaller locations. They're in the process of launching an app that mobilizes volunteers to be able to go pick up excess food in their vehicles and bring it to organizations that can use it right away. So Goodwill Northwest works as kind of a distributor, so they'll capture that food and bring it to an organization that distributes it out to the community, and then using that app, they'll be able to have volunteers be able to move those smaller amounts as well. And then if you're concerned about food safety, again, it comes back to food must be donated in a safe way. Goodwill Northwest Food Rescue is just like any other food rescue or food access organization, is more than happy to connect with donors and share about what is safe to donate. And really, as long as it has met the food safety guidelines of your typical, serve safe, food safety guides, then it should be safe to donate. And then looking at dates or other things, that often is up to different organizations as well. Different food access points and different food rescues are open to different date requirements. Some take product well past the date, especially dry goods. A lot of time dry goods or shelf-stable items are good for years past the expiration date and can still be donated depending on who can accept it. Some places, and depending on the item as well, you don't want to donate dairy a year past the date, obviously. But there are, that may be able to donate a couple days past the date. So depending on the food access point of what that looks like, and depending on, what the item is, the best by or use by date may still be flexible as far as what can be donated and what can be consumed, and what really it comes down to what communities and what the users of these food access points are interested in. And your food access points will know exactly what they are looking for. So as we are building up food rescue in the area, we're really working to encourage supporting these food rescue organizations that are already doing this work and being able to connect food from point A to point B. And then we're also offering support in this area if you're seeing gaps as far as food rescue. We're happy through Eagle to work with your local food rescue operator to help support and identify gaps of, where do they need more support? Do they need technical assistance? Do they need more funding? What are the barriers to be able to really capture any and all food that is safe for human consumption and get it out to communities who can use that food. And then there's a couple other ways to divert would-be wasted food for human consumption. There's the Michigan Agricultural Surplus System, which Goodwill Northwest Food Rescue works with the Food Bank of West Michigan, or Feeding America West Michigan, and they work through the Food Bank Council. But this Michigan Agricultural Surplus System is a program through MDHHS, and they provide funding to the Food Bank Council of Michigan to be able to purchase food at a low cost directly from farmers and agricultural producers to get that food to charitable organizations. So that is something we hope will continue to see support and funding through DHHS, and an opportunity that we try to share information on to know, so that farmers know that they can connect with the Food Bank Council of Michigan and potentially be able to sell some excess at low cost. And then often charitable food organizations do direct purchasing, so especially for healthy, quality produce or other items that are in high demand for charitable food organizations. Oftentimes they are purchasing items at wholesale cost and would be interested in potentially purchasing at a reduced cost if it's an excess item that, say, a farmer or a producer was going to throw away anyways. Next slide. Feeding animals and then leaving unharvested would be the next on the preferred pathway. So if there are ways for food to get to animal feed, whether it's being processed first or fed directly, this puts food materials back into the food chain and keeps it from ending up in the landfill. We know that there are a couple that Goodwill Northwest works with to be able to divert food for animal consumption, I believe. And, there are other farmers around that may be open to excess food being used to feed their animals. Next slide. So we know that not everything can be eaten or sent to animal feed. Next on the pathways would be composting or anaerobic digestion. There are a lot of really amazing composting efforts happening in this region. The compost tour was mentioned. I'd really highly encourage you to go check out some of those tours if you're able to see some of the incredible composting efforts. But to be able to meet that 50% food waste reduction, these compost efforts will need to be scaled. So really being able to support composting efforts and fill gaps that are in the area, whether that's through residential food scrap pickups or more food scrap drop-off sites or more composting operators, really identifying what's happening in your region and identifying those gaps will help you understand the goals of how to scale those composting efforts as well. Next slide, please. Benefits of composting obviously keeping organics out of the landfill. But building flood and drought resilience in your soils, reducing carbon in the atmosphere, using compost in place of chemical fertilizers, and then improving soil and water quality as well. Next slide. And then anaerobic digestion. Food is energy. Food can be sent to anaerobic digesters where materials can be broken down, and the biogas can be captured and used to create electricity or natural gas. Now the biogas technology, well, I don't know if the technology, but the biogas capture is more efficient than the methane capture technologies because you're capturing all of the methane that is being produced in that anaerobic digestion process. But it is important to have a plan for the digestate. That's really when a lot of the regulatory components and knowing what is happening with that digestate and knowing where it's going, how it's being used. Is it being used for a beneficial source? Is it being sent to the landfill? Really having a plan as digesters are being put in place is a really important component of that. Next slide, please. And then pre-processing technologies are a conversation that is coming up more and more. There are multiple different kinds. There are grinders, biodigesters, pulpers, dehydrators, anaerobic in-vessel units. If you are really interested in learning more, there's a great resource by the EPA that really dives into the different pre-processing technologies, what types of materials can be accepted, and what kind of outputs they create. So there are different pros and cons depending on the different types, but some of them do create a usable byproduct, some of them don't. Some of them are really large operations. Some of them are small and can fit into a commercial kitchen. I would say, these are kind of, they fit in specific environments. They can be really beneficial if there is no compost opportunity available, if there's no better use of food product. So there are some of these in place around the state. It's something that we're learning more and more about all the time. And seeing more and more of them pop up, and they are entering the conversation more. So I would say that it may depend on the setting of where this is suitable, but really we encourage the highest and best use of materials. So if food can be composted or if food can be donated, we would definitely encourage that over pre-processing technologies. So yeah, but ultimately, like I said, we are hoping to support materials management planning through identifying what is the best and highest use for these materials and what is the best capacity and economic impact for your communities. What's the best use of these materials that has the best impact for your community members as well. So I think that might be it. Tracy, next slide, please. That is all. So if you have any questions, happy to answer them.
I have a question about anaerobic digestion. Yeah. And I know our chair, Sarna, who's not here, also had a question about that. So you guys kind of offered that as a potential solution. And what's the smallest scale that's worked on, if you know that? Like, I don't know if you can, like by volume or population or...
I think it varies.
Like,
I don't have a specific...
Like it might not be a viable option for
right.
a rural community.
Yeah. So it depends on what you're working with as far as is this an on-farm anaerobic digester that is digesting manure and taking food scraps from off-site? Or is this solely targeting food waste diversion? And in that case, what is your other feedstocks that you're being added to it, and where does that come from? With anaerobic digestion, similar to compost, you have to have other feedstocks. You have to have a recipe for what you're putting in there. If you're putting in a bunch of liquid to be digested, then your digestate may be more of a liquid. It might be harder to manage. So, like I said, kind of understanding what your recipe is going to look like and what that digestate is going to look like may depend or may determine what your regulatory needs are. So
Yeah, 'cause
what
my understanding is there's pretty heavy regulation around
there,
that.
yeah, there are. So that's, we've seen some digesters that are really successful, and we've seen some that are really messy. So, I know that the one in Flint is one that seems to be doing well. I haven't got myself over there to see it in person, but I've heard that it is operating pretty well, and they are actually on the compost tour on Saturday, the 20th. So if anybody feels like making a road trip out to Flint, there's an opportunity to go see the digester that's out there. I know there are several on-farm digesters that do put their manure in there, and then some of them will also add food waste. There's one that's kind of in the works in central South Michigan, that I believe it's in Battle Creek, but I could be wrong. But they're working to launch in 2026, where they'll be taking off-site food waste as well. But again, looking back at Part 115 and making sure you're meeting the percentages required by regulatory guidelines.
All right. Do we have any other questions? I know, Aubrey, I'm going to have other questions, but they're going to be for the other presentations you give.
Okay.
I think that up in this process, in this planning area, there's a little bit better composting infrastructure. There's existing companies,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So I think that it'll be something I'll be looking forward into the future. I was probably ask Trudy once she talks to about some of that stuff. But I know like here having like Carter's Compost and Food Rescue and all that kind of stuff, seeing how we can support them and make operations better and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, TJ.
Yep. And I had a question too. So in the pie chart with residential farm manufacturing, where it comes from, why is retail so small?
So retail is actually so small because a lot of it is already being donated. So most retailers are, at least a lot of your big box retailers are working as retail affiliates to Feeding America. And so your Feeding America food banks, there are 7 across the state, and they cover all the counties in the entire state. If they are not picking up that food directly from the food bank, they're working with agencies that are agencies of Feeding America to be able to pick up that food for them. So there's a lot of that retail excess that's already being picked up and diverted to food access points. And then many of them also compost too. So if it's food that's not safe for human consumption, a lot of it gets composted. And then we're seeing other opportunities to divert food waste before it goes bad, like flash food. So you may have seen some flash food fridges around. Those are an opportunity for retailers to move that food into a low-cost purchasing point, and then folks can go on an app and purchase that food. Some of them are even SNAP eligible. That's kind of location by location. So it's a good opportunity to increase that food access at a low cost, and also for retailers to divert that produce as well. So there is still a need to work with retailers to make that process more efficient. There are many retailers that aren't able to donate everything because food access agencies aren't able to pick up every day, and they don't have storage in their back room to be able to hold that product from Friday to Monday when their food bank or nonprofit agency is coming to pick up. So there are still gaps in that area.
So this pie chart is based off of, they've already done some of that diversion and composting or whatever they've been doing, right?
yeah.
And so this is even after they've been doing their remediation, if you will, this is what's left over?
I believe so. I'd have to look back at it because I know I got that data through ReFed, which is a national organization that does food waste data, and they put together estimates for each state, depending on what retailers and what populations are in the state. So it is an estimated amount.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's not, that is estimated data through ReFed's calculations. I believe it's before diversion, but I'd have to look back at it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I can follow up with you on that and get more information.
I was just looking at that and thinking, well, retail must be doing something right, and what can we look at to do?
I'm dubious that that is this area. I would imagine, because it's a statewide number, that reflects a far more organized urban environment waste, as opposed to Grand Traverse County, restaurants in Traverse City or Frankfurt. I'm just surmising, but I would imagine it's a whole lot easier to do large-scale retail food diversion in the downstate urban areas where you've got a volume that we just don't have.
Yeah. Yep. Also in the packet, just if everyone knows, we have those seeds profiles, and there is some information broken down in there as well.
Yeah, but it doesn't actually address retail. If
Yep,
in those
yeah.
four in the pie charts there, and I would also note that those pie charts are regional. They don't break it down by county. They're identical for all three counties in the packet. So I would be interested if if part of our work here is going to be, if 2021 is the baseline, what was 2021 for each of these sectors, and what does that look like in terms of what do goals look like if we were to set a goal of, say, 30% or 40% or, and using those seeds numbers in terms of the actual diversion that's already happening. We have a huge range. My quick math is 2% in Benzie and 20% in Grand Traverse, starting. That's, orders of magnitude differences. So it's going to be, in order to make that a number on a regional basis, there's probably going to be some tailoring, and it may be easier to get an entire 30% or 50% reduction in Grand Traverse County and do very little in Benzie, just because of the total volume, right? Like you may end up putting all your resources into, but that's where the data is going to come in, and I'm excited for that to get rolling.
Yeah, and I know that Goodwill Northwest also retail food rescue in the area, and then I know Feeding America West Michigan also keeps track of that information, so that could be another data point to see what's already happening and how much food is being rescued from the retailers in these counties.
Is that something that Goodwill has ready? Is there a report that they do annually that they could share with this board?
I was just gonna ask. I assume I know Dave does, but Lydia, you also know Taylor more. That's who I was thinking. Contact him and see what
they
data
should.
we can get. And I was gonna say I'm sure that they do. Taylor's pretty detail oriented. They're actually out doing a collection right now. But yeah, we'll get in contact with him to see what data we can get.
And I'm fairly certain I can get the data from Feeding America West Michigan as well. So
I mean, to the extent that retail is a low-hanging fruit, And it's a small piece of the pie because it's a low-hanging fruit, and other communities have already sort of picked that fruit, for lack of a better term. That could be an area that we have an opportunity, right, to organize and get into. Go ahead.
I think that one is a little further along than capturing from residential sources. So in this area, we do have programs, as well as Food Rescue does a really good job of capturing from retail. Meyer has a very good.
So I guess one question is, when we're talking about what Taylor's doing is, to my understanding, Food Rescue takes good food, right, and takes it and distributes it to the food banks. But the waste, right, like Taylor's not picking up scraps of, or am I missing something? I thought they were picking up food and
So-
distributing it through the food banks.
The way I interpret the chart is that retail would represent the food that is no longer shelf, that they can keep on the shelves but is still good. And so that is material that Taylor would be picking up and distributing. There is also an organization that is working with area farmers. There's a few of them out there, but you're right. It'll be good to have that data, to have a breakdown and see where our biggest opportunities are. A couple ways to look at it. So if retail does represent 15%, so if it is 15% of what is going into the landfill, and we're not sure on that chart, and we see residential is at 33% and farms are at 30%, I'm just going off of memory. You could look at, those are also big opportunities. And so if retail has a successful infrastructure in place throughout the state to where it's down to 15%, I suspect a lot of that's because it's shelf stable, more shelf stable products. But we could look at that infrastructure and see how do we capture that from farms who are at 33%. How do we set that up? And there are some groups in the area that do work with farm and capture the crops that maybe aren't don't look right for the market, but are still very good food. And then the other big number was the residential, which, you know, that falls in line with exploring what we want to do as a region in regards to composting. I think some interesting numbers to see.
Yeah, I guess there's two different things going on. One is the pie chart that shows surplus food, which I understand it is still good food, and it's being reused, right?
So is that, Tracy, would you mind pulling that chart back up if you're able to? If it does say food surplus at the top, that includes, that's all excess food. So that's
Okay,
including,
so that's also scraps and
yeah, that's scraps
scraped
and,
off plates and.
yeah.
Okay.
So the refed food waste calculator also has the option to filter to food waste, and then you can break it down by that. Yeah, so if it, so that's the surplus food tons. So that's everything that's produced. So if you take out what is being diverted for beneficial uses, there's an option through refed that lets you change that surplus
Yep.
to wasted
Yep.
food tons, and then you can look at the different sectors across Michigan. I think I didn't use that one because they include in the waste some, I'm trying to, there's a reason.
Well,
I'd have to look back at it.
yeah,
but
so-
this kind of shows of where all the food is being produced and where there might be opportunity for rescue, or compost, or more beneficial uses than where it's currently going.
So what would it take for us to see that data for a regional and a county basis? Is that within the scope of what we're working on to break that down further?
It would still only be an estimation unless you went to every.
Right, but somebody could sort of model that out with some sampling and some estimates, understanding it's not precise.
You could probably also use that EPA excess food opportunities map to get an idea of what
Yeah,
types of.
I looked at that, and I think it uses the registered address of a corporate agent as the
Okay.
addresses, because they're
Ah,
all
yeah.
over the map, if
Okay.
restaurants that aren't at where they say they are and things like
Okay.
that. But yeah, I would imagine it could help sort of
Kind of
hone
get
in
an
on some of the
idea,
data.
yeah.
but-
Yeah, and talking to Food Rescue and
Yeah.
getting, hopefully they'd be willing to share some of that data by donor and just, yeah.
The one pagers, yeah. Yeah, is there anything else we have for Aubrey?
Are the grants that you were discussing early on in the presentation on an annual cycle? Is that?
Typically, yeah, and, you know, they may be a little delayed with budget conversations, but we do anticipate the recycling infrastructure grant, organics infrastructure grant, and food rescue grant to be available in the next fiscal year. And then we typically have other grant opportunities. Our circular economy grant, we have a couple of like seed grant opportunities for pilot programs or you know, projects that are looking to scale, kind of needing that more launch funding. Those are usually smaller amounts. And then you'll see other funding opportunities through other state departments like MDARD or MDHHS available for, especially for food access or for like MDHHS often has, you know, food access grants. MDARD sometimes has ones that are more focused on agriculture. So if you're looking at food loss or loss on farms, that could be an area, or farm-related food waste, that could be an area to keep an eye out for. I'm not in the loop on their exact grant opportunities and cycles, but I know they often have other grants available as well.
One more question.
Yep.
With the anaerobic digestion, and I understand, you know, it's you know, one of the least things you want to focus on. And is that because too that there are other side effects to it, or maybe I don't know, secondary products that we don't necessarily want?
Yeah, so you know, when I was mentioning the digestate, if the digestate is not used for a beneficial use, then it's really not a very preferred pathway. If you're using that digestate for a beneficial use, then it can be kind of on the same level as composting, and then you're capturing the energy from the methane. But it is a high cost and highly regulated process.
Awesome. I think that is it for right now. I'm sure we'll have more questions, so perhaps
yeah.
we'll shoot you an email or something.
Feel free to reach out with questions. I'm available to continue the discussion. I'm available to provide technical assistance, you know, outside of these meetings. If I need to connect with any of you kind of through email or on the phone, feel free to reach out, and happy to answer any questions you have.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so up next we have a contractor update. I didn't know if Lydia, you wanted to go first, or if you just wanted to have Trudy start going.
Trudy, if you want to go, and then if I feel like you missed anything, I'll fill in the gaps there.
Okay, good afternoon. And Aubrey, that was really great information on composting, on food waste, and I think it's going to be very valuable as we move forward in this process.
Especially getting Vimla, that I would
Yes.
encourage. She's out of the country right now, but she's kind of the data queen, so I would encourage her to watch this meeting recording.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Because we just came up with a lot more questions from that presentation.
So a quick update for you. First off, in your packet, you have a one-pager, which is a little update. I'll kind of review it for you a little bit. And this is a simple one. This is the start. As we go on, we'll include a timeline and where things are at, and we'll have more information and kind of let you know where things, when things are completed, when things are in progress, or maybe we haven't hit a step yet. So the transportation survey, that was sent out September 3rd. We emailed that out to the haulers, to the companies doing a lot of different hauling. And we're going to send out a reminder email next week. So that will be the second reach out to them for anybody who has not completed it. And then the third time will be phone calls. So if you've ever worked with nonprofits or been contacted by nonprofits for donations, sometimes what they'll say is they like to do a 3-time touch, because that reminds people to make sure that they have responded. And I know it works with me, because sometimes that first email comes through and I think, oh yeah, I'm going to do this survey form, and then I don't. I put it away, and then it comes through the second time. It's like, I didn't do that yet. So, it's good to get those reminders out there and do it a couple times. The residential survey, that was released September 8th after several revisions. We talked with the committee, we talked with staff, and we made sure that we had some corrections, and we incorporated the changes that were requested for that residential survey. Fishbeck also created a simple design with a QR code, which can be, it is print ready and can be used for posters and flyers. So that was sent to Lydia yesterday. And that can be used at any events now, whether it's just printed off on paper, it's sent out through social media and so forth. And we are trying to get this out at as many locations as possible. So I also encourage you, if you send out a lot of emails under your signature or before it, sometimes people put those QR messages in there. You could put the QR code in there as you send out those email messages. Could be part of your signature for a while so that we reach more people. There's no time limit on this. We're going to leave this out here for quite a while so that we can get a good return on the surveys. And I mentioned the QR code for an email signature. One of the other things we'd like to do is, with these updates, we would like to reach out to you and Solid Waste Council members, county commissioners, and so forth, to kind of use those updates if you're going out to municipalities and letting them know what's going on at the county level. So you can give them these updates, you can share it by email, and then each time you're in front of a municipality again with an update, you have a new one to give to them. So we'd like that to be done. I think that just helps to spread the word about what's going on and the progress, but also build that rapport and build that enthusiasm for getting this plan approved when we get down to that point. So the more we can keep reminding people about what's going on, the better. The data collection is ongoing, of course. We've gathered more data from Lydia. I met with her the other day, and we went through some things that she has on her files, and we talked through some other locations and resources that we might be able to use for data collection. And I will review that with Vimla and the team once she is back from her vacation. We've also started looking at the recycling locations. This is just something that we brought up that we wanted to see, like, where are they? If we look at them on a map, are the maps accurate? And are there any gaps? So if there are gaps, we want to take a look at that and find out, how far does a person have to drive to get to a recycling drop-off, or do they have curbside recycling that they can use in that area? We'd also like to reach out and find out any of these sites that have closed, say, in the last year or two, is find out why they closed, what are the problems, and maybe that is something that we have to consider as we move forward when we're identifying sites for recycling. See, I mentioned that we'll add the timeline, the task to the future updates, and I think that's it for my update. Oh, I did want to mention something else, and Aubrey brought up goal setting. One of the things we're going to be doing is just kind of documenting the themes or the repeated conversations that we're seeing through your meetings so that we can start a list of what we feel might be some goals, instead of waiting months down the road and then say, okay, we have to have a goal-setting session. We're going to create a list for you, and then when we get to that discussion point, and maybe it's a couple meetings of discussions, we can go through that list. Things might rise to the top, other things might fall down to the lower part of priorities or fall off the list, and you might have other goals that you want to add to the list. We feel that is a good way to kind of capture what you're discussing and what's of importance to you as we move along, and it help you set those goals and those objectives for the plan as we get into this, further, a few months down the road. So hopefully that is an approach that you'll like. And we won't be reporting to you every month like these are your goals, but we're going to kind of keep that on the side as let's keep adding to this list. We're seeing these recurring things, and we think this is important to them and something we can capture in the plan. That's it on
So
that one.
I'll make sure, you guys do have the link to the survey. I don't think I included the QR code to this group, so I'll make sure you guys have that. Because we are asking, just for a little bit of assistance with that, especially for the folks that elected officials represent. Because, you have the different townships, villages. So if you could help get the word out, we would really appreciate that. If there's anything else you'd want to say on that, or?
Yeah, I can get that QR code out on the Facebook site Overheard in Leelanau County, and I know there's some for the other counties. If we just know who the contact is to ask them if they would post that, that would be really good. We will have more data, an update for you next month on the surveys as far as what's coming in. And I can tell you already, just from the emails I've sent out and asked people to do it, they have responded that they have gone on there and done the survey. So that's good. We want that coming back to us that, yeah, we're filling these out for you.
And also something to consider is, I feel like a lot of times we're preaching to the choir. We're getting input from people who already care about this stuff and participate in programs. So we do need to at least try to get feedback from maybe different demographics that don't think it's important or worthwhile, because we want to find out why they don't participate.
I do have a question.
Yep.
Do we have this in like a flyer form, so, somewhere that we can post, like in a library or, I don't know.
I do have a one-pager that I made up, and then Fishbeck did make up like a postcard template, so I'm just working on getting those printed to give out at meetings, like township
Yes.
meetings, because I feel like when you scan a QR code or you click on a link, it might just get lost in your phone and you'll forget about it and never actually take it. So I think at like township meetings and stuff, being able to physically hand something out is going to be really important. So I will get those to you guys,
Thank you.
hopefully next week.
Thank you.
Could you make sure that those are distributed to county commissioners at an upcoming meeting, just a stack of them, so that we
Yeah.
all have lots of them to distribute?
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
Was there any other questions for Trudy?
Rudy, I just looked at my emails. I never got anything from that survey.
Me neither.
It's in
And you didn't-
today's packet.
No, their contract,
For
their,
the
The-
Tri-County Transportation Survey.
Your emails didn't bounce back, and I went to your website, and that was the email that was listed, so we could revisit
check,
that.
but-
I think we
don't
sent
know.
it out a second time as well, but I will double check that,
Or
sure.
if it went to spam or something.
Double check that too, but I
Yeah,
also don't know what's sourcing, so like, what does it say? Does it say Fishback or does it say something else?
it'll be from
It came
Fishback.
from Fishback. But I'll double check that, make sure that it
Yeah,
gets to you guys.
appreciate
Mhm.
the feedback on that.
Corey, you said
I
same
just
for you?
filled out the survey
Oh,
while we were
okay.
sitting here, to be honest with you.
Okay,
But now you have it, but I didn't get it either. I got it from
from the packet.
the packet today.
Okay. All right, yep, because she's been communicating with me like, hey, this email bounced back, and, or this person no longer works here kind of thing, so we've been working on that.
Okay. Anything else? All right, I believe the next item was additional engagement discussion. Is that you, Lydia?
Think both of us, if you'd stay up here.
Sure.
Okay.
So, yep, we got the hauler infrastructure survey out and resident survey, but we need, and obviously that was a topic of discussion earlier with organics, as we do need to consider data from local businesses, and then yeah, what those questions will look like. And I know Part 115 has specific specific things they're looking for in the legislation, and Fishbeck's pretty knowledgeable on that. And then the LUG survey, or the local units of government, the LUG survey is going to be really crucial because we eventually need 2/3 approval of municipalities who respond to the plan. They have to approve the plan. So the earlier I think we can kind of get that on their radar and hopefully get support of them, the better off we'll be when it really comes down to the final months of this process. What else do we want here? So, and then I think just getting the residential survey out to the municipalities, that's kind of like a first step, but I also do send out notices to officials in all 3 counties of our meetings. So unless they're just ignoring the emails, they should be aware of this process a little bit. And I have done a presentation to the Leelanau Board of Commissioners so that obviously they're well aware and they approve things for it. And there's a lot of rural groups, like municipalities, who have very limited office hours, or they don't even have a website. So that's going to be kind of a challenge to get to them. But I'm sure you have some thoughts on that. And then, but it sounds like the elected officials we have here are willing to spread the word about that. And then I think we also just need help beyond the folks that sit on this committee. And I don't really have a concrete plan for that, or like how to approach them. And I'm kind of hoping that's where Fishbeck can fill in the gaps, or I'm open to ideas from you all as you work alongside a lot of these folks. And then we also would like to include the tribe for the municipality list. And what else? But yeah, we're doing a lot of different distribution methods, social media, staff emailing lists. Yeah, social media is a huge one. In person, because that's how you are going to reach folks who are just not online. And Trudy, feel free to jump in whenever. I'm just trying to go over.
Yeah, so I haven't seen anything on social media. Not that I'm all that in a bag of chips, but I'm just saying I haven't seen anything. And so I guess I'm wondering too, for me to promote and push some of that, I kind of would like to know what it's called. What would one be looking for?
We
looking
haven't
at that?
posted them yet on the Facebook, the Overheard in Leelanau County or Benzie
Oh, you
County.
haven't posted
Not
them
yet.
yet.
So when those go
Oh.
on there, we're going to encourage people to share that, because that is really good. Or even if people use like Instagram, all they need is that QR code with that little bit of information that we have from Fishbeck to post it. And then people can share it. So I think when I post my own, personally on my own page, I'm going to put something down like, do you recycle? Do you not recycle? We want to hear from you. So it's not just, we're trying to get that message out there. Even if you don't recycle, we want to hear from you. We want to know why. We want to know, are you composting? Are you doing anything?
Yes, and so I'm just
yeah.
saying, if I'm another body, how do I help push you along, in our county? I guess is what I'm saying is, so, if I knew, I don't know.
We'll send you like a paragraph that kind of describes what the survey is for and why the input is important from residents, and then we'll have that link again in the QR code. And then all 3 counties agreed to share it on their social media, like their actual accounts. And then obviously you guys can feel free to do it on your personal accounts, and Trudy's going to get it on some of these other groups, like Overheard in Leelanau County, which gets a lot of traffic. And then also I'm just going to start putting up physical flyers and QR codes around, because sometimes, that's just a good way to get some of the other folks.
Mark and Jim are not here. There are two that we
Oh.
mentioned that
They're a
we
great
wanted
idea.
to ask if they would be able to, in their bills, to send a QR code out, little link or something, but we haven't touched base with them yet. It was just an idea that Lydia and I were talking about the other day, but we could do that with anyone who's sending out bills for garbage pickup. That would be
Yeah,
great.
because most people
Good
have
idea.
garbage pickup, but they might not have a recycling bin,
Mm-hmm.
and we want to find out like why, or if they think it's important or not. So yeah, that is a good idea. Hopefully they're receptive to that.
All right, anything else on this?
We anticipate developing the plan as results are coming in. Seems like with the timeline and the expectancy that the survey may be out there for a year or so,
Do you guys want it out there that long? I guess that's
Depends.
something we haven't
Depends
talked about.
on what how many people are responding and where they're responding from. The quality of the data would impact how long we want it out for, I would think.
I would encourage that we pursue the beginning of the draft of the plan in anticipation that we already have a pretty good idea of what we're likely going to hear back. And keep in mind that this plan needs to be fluid, so we can shift as we go and learn new information, but to maybe not wait too long for too many answers. Winter tax bill could be an opportunity. That's not too far away, where there could be a stuffer.
Yeah, we did talk about that, and I know, like in Leelanau County, some of them are done through the county, some are done by the municipality, so you have to contact them and make sure they're okay with putting it in there. I mean, it is an option if you want that pursued.
But I don't want to fall into a place where we're hunting for answers, from this survey before we actually begin the work that I think stay on track and
Right.
focus on.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
can get ahead of it, and then in the next couple of weeks, I'm sure we'll have, like hundreds of responses that can kind of give us some sort of direction or pulse, right, to figure out where people are at.
Yeah, and so the survey and then also the data to help formulate, or,
Right.
Point of reference of our residential total recycling rate. I think there'll probably also need to be a group discussion, and with this group is, do we want to know our recycling rate, which that we have to know? Do we also want to know our diversion rate, which we don't have to know for this materials management plan? Those are two different things. So the recycling rate is what the state is going to be using. That's the measurement for if we start at 20 and we want to be to 50, that's the recycling rate. The diversion from the landfill is other categories that we may want to focus on. So I think deciding what year we're going to use as our baseline for our recycling rate, maybe we could potentially already be discussing where we want to be, and then observing, reviewing the plan format. I feel like these are all things that could be underway while answers from surveys are coming in, but really getting that data and getting things moving. And, I would love to see a plan that can accept and be fluid as our region shifts over the next decade or two. And so I can see that happening right now. We could be beginning this work, and maybe we learn, we thought it was this, and now it's this, so then we fold that. I feel like we're well enough along that we could feel reasonably comfortable to actually start some of the work. Maybe that's just me, and also giving consideration to our I don't think we want to be at next month's meeting discussing whether or not we have enough survey results.
You're saying next meeting that we start working on kind of this fluidity plan, getting kind of maybe the backbones down?
There's probably maybe not enough representatives here to say that they would be comfortable for an agenda item, but maybe as like a follow-up email to this meeting to explore, are we ready for that? Do you feel comfortable with that? Staff, back.
You want a template to start
I'd
plugging
like to
some of the
see
things.
some structure and,
Yeah,
and
start
we,
plugging into.
review the template and
Yeah.
kind of get to work. I think we're there, yeah.
Makes sense to me.
So I agree with that, and I also just, on the surveys, I see the surveys as an opportunity to educate the takers of the surveys and the people who we are promoting to start thinking about recycling. The data is going to be useful and interesting, but more importantly, I don't want the first time the supervisor of Union Township hears about recycling is when we put a plan in front of him to approve. So surveys are very beneficial to get people understanding, and I really appreciate that there's a resident survey coming up. I think I understand a local unit of government survey will be a second touch, so to speak, to use Trudy's term, and then having cards that keep pushing that. Every planning commission, every ZBA, every township board member of every township in all of these counties should have heard from us multiple times by the time they ever see that plan for approval. And the surveys are a really easy way to do that. It's a direct ask. It's low impact.
Yeah.
And they are people who are already engaged very much in community, so.
And they could be available throughout the whole process.
Absolutely.
It's just a repeated effort of
Yep.
education and seeking input while we're working. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, is there any other?
Yeah, so you guys feel that we want to move forward with a business survey and a local unit of government survey, and we want to use an ad hoc committee to come up with the content of that. It could be staff, the contractor, and some of the committee members who are interested in being a part of that. I know that's what we did for the resident survey.
So I think my feeling is yes, but I'm not sure that I want to do that. I kind of feel like the resident survey should sit out there for a month and then pick up a new survey, because that gives us two things to talk about instead of two things at the same time.
Right.
If that makes sense?
I just with scheduling in mind, it was really hard to get everyone to actually meet at the same time for the resident survey. So they ended up giving feedback through email, and some people were able to attend. But I just wanted to kind of plant that seed that maybe we do an ad hoc committee to actually come up with that content. And sooner than later. It doesn't mean we push it out right away, but also we are, like Dave said, we are under this timeline, and that those two surveys I feel like are going to be crucial data.
Do we have any folks here that are able to do it? So I would just say I don't think that I have the time
Understandable.
to
Yeah.
make another meeting.
And Sarna was on last one. Bill was on last one. Mary Pitcher. So all three of them are gone right now. So
I'm happy to participate if we're talking about a meeting in October. Realistically, that's probably where my schedule's at, but my general feeling is, and a timeline would be helpful, maybe for the next meeting to just touch base about, what are the deadlines and where we're at. If the fall is sort of the push out on the residential, and maybe the goal is a spring push out on a local unit of government survey, by which I mean.
I don't think you can wait that long.
You don't think so?
I think, our biggest problem is going to be timeline. So,
Well, that's why we should.
I have it calculated out that we should have drafts by like August 2026 in order to meet the approval timelines.
And I guess I'm thinking if the push is to try to get every community to know about the residential survey, I suspect that takes 6 weeks to 2 months to get done realistically. And then I suspect that if you want to do that again for a local unit of government, it's going to take another, I mean, you could email it to everyone, but it would be nice if there was a person who handed out little note cards at meetings and said, you know, please know about this. I'm just, to your point, I don't disagree. I don't know that we need a local unit of government survey response results before we're talking about, we don't, right?
You don't need the results, but you need it out there to be conducted, right? You know,
Right.
That survey needs to have time to
Because
do.
Networks Northwest has all three surveys.
All three of
out.
ours are out right now, and I'll say that my rationale behind that is what I get from the community, from the residents, could be completely different than what a local unit's going to allow. It could be different here, but I'll just give an example for Wexford County. They essentially don't put any money into recycling. And so the residents might be saying that they want something, but then I'm still going to have to take that to the local units of government who are not going to want to raise taxes. They're not going to want to spend more money into their budget. So that's why we have them out at the same time. And then also obviously touching base with those local units. I think having the surveys kind of end around the same time is beneficial because then you can compare them a bit. They're different questions, obviously, but ultimately, I think a lot of what is going to be done is probably going to land on a county or on a township, city, or village, and they have their own boards that can shut it down, if you will. They can say, no, we're not going to put up another drop-off bin because we don't have whatever $10,000 to spend. That's my thought on that.
And funding opportunities is another discussion that we'll need
Funding
sometime in the
mechanisms.
future to go over this and look at what everyone is doing, what is possible, what are the pros and cons of each funding, because that's a part that you want to consider with your plan too. So that'll be an upcoming meeting discussion. And how are you doing with your responses on your surveys, if I can ask?
It was very slow. It's slow depending on the county that we're working in.
Okay.
I actually was just looking, and we've started to get more of a boost following the summer. So I think maybe that will be something that was maybe nice for this process, is that you're not trying to push it out during the summer. I think that probably didn't help us out very much, but we got about 700 responses right now. I like to use short links for a lot of my stuff, so I know that I've had almost 1,000 engagements on the short link. One thing that we've kind of ran into is just getting people to actually take it. So that's again where in our processes I've always fallen on to. I think it's my job to put the opportunity out there as best as we possibly can, but it's up to an individual to respond to that survey. So we're keeping our surveys open through the end of the year. We're going to try and jump into winter tax bills as well. The ones that have maybe a newsletter that goes into their tax bill, we'll try to jump into. There's definitely going to be some of them that I think they just send their tax bill. They're not going to put anything extra in there. That's just part of it, but we'll try to circumvent that by going to some of the local unit government meetings. I went to about 30 different community events through the course of the summer, which was kind of, as Lydia had mentioned, to target or at least reach out to people to the groups that are not as likely to respond. That was also too, we wanted to have the opportunity for seasonal residents to also respond to the survey as they are utilizing our infrastructure. That's something that we talked about during the summer months. The bins are constantly fuller, and that's because our population swells up during the summer. the business survey has been difficult to get businesses to respond to. So we're looking at changing up how we're targeting them, I guess, or how we're going about that, just to try and get more responses from the business. And we have about half of the local units have responded so far. And then I think Dave kind of was mentioning it. Our intention is that after October, we'll put out kind of like a initial analysis of the survey, because I think the same as ours here, it's primarily multiple choice. It should be relatively easy to update that in January once we've closed the survey. The most difficult part would be analyzing additional responses that aren't just multiple choice. But I think even then, we've only got just a handful of opportunities for text-based response. So I haven't been too concerned about that. So that's kind of where we're at. We're still in trying to get it pushed out. And yeah, our goal is just to get as many responses as we can. We're not putting a number on it. I think that's way too complicated to do. And even when you start talking about like statistical assurity, like here, that's gonna be, I think the 3 counties has got to be 140,000 or something maybe. So once you start talking about 5% of that, the number's pretty high. And if we get that many responses, that'd be phenomenal. But just from what I've seen over the past decade, it's tough sledding. So in my opinion, the best we can do is put that opportunity for response out there. Like TJ said, going to having like the cards, that's what we have, business cards is what we did. And it has the survey on the front, and on the back, QR code, short link to the survey and a short link to the resource page. And that's what we've been distributing. I know that there is some, it's definitely working. So I know I went to Charlevoix's HHW event in Boyne City, and I passed out 170 of those cards, and now they've got like 250 responses. I think they had like 30 at the end of August, so. All right, do we have any other comments or anything? If not,
We'll get working on this stuff, report back to you.
perfect. Thank you,
Just a
Trudy.
question then, are you looking to set up an ad hoc, or what was the decision
I
with
don't-
respect to?
So we had TJ,
You said you're
who was
interested, but
interested,
you mentioned,
but wasn't
For your
available. maybe till
availability.
I
So-
can't
October.
meet in September,
I-
but
If I could make a suggestion, and not, hopefully, nobody will feel thrown under the bus, but the 3 folks that helped us develop the initial surveys, that was like an ad hoc that you guys already created. Is it possible that we could ask those folks to participate again? And if not, if there are any alternative members that are here today that would want to step in, perhaps Commissioner Andrews would be an alternate to that, but, maybe ask that group initially and then move forward.
The ad hoc group, what was all involved in, how long did that take for those guys to produce that?
a
Couple
couple weeks, yeah. It was just,
It was one meeting.
For the
meeting.
residential survey?
yeah, so it
one
was
meeting.
one meeting, and then, like I said, it was hard, people were on vacation and stuff, so it was hard to get people to attend it, so then I just kind of allowed them to do email.
Is there not a
Input.
commercial
Yeah.
waste survey that we can pull from somewhere that doesn't take that much time and resources?
I think there is. I think
There's
you've
probably
got
examples,
examples,
yeah.
but I think it was just like, do you like this question? Should we add others? Is there something missing? Right? Like, it's just a tweaking of it, of the survey to the community. I suspect it's 1 to 2 meetings. Fair? Here's a proposal, give us your feedback, here's the final, any last comments, and then it's,
And we can double check, but I would not be surprised if Sarna would be willing to do that again.
I'm in support of using the ad hoc, trying to even do it by Zoom, if that makes it easier to get everyone or whatever, Teams, And if you need an extra person, I'm happy to be pulled
Okay.
in.
So then we can just reach out to the original ad hoc, like
Yep.
Maxwell said.
That sounds
And then if
Because
there's,
I was just saying, one of the problems was scheduling, and we did make it a hybrid meeting.
yeah,
We
yeah,
were
I
trying to be
think the
flexible.
meeting, it was either during a meeting that I had or whatever, but, so yeah.
So Bill, Sarna.
And my comment and my feedback is that I thought that group did a phenomenal job from what we started with and what we ended up with. I thought was great.
Okay, awesome. All right, I think that was our last thing. Or did you have something else, Lydia?
No, do we need to vote on that, or no? Because it's already been established, so.
I think since it's already been established, we can just reutilize the ad hoc committee for the business survey.
Would you like a motion for the record? Would it make it easier? I see a nod.
I'm always fine with more motions.
I'll make the motion that we continue the survey ad hoc for a local unit of government and business
Support.
surveys.
All right, so we have a motion and support for continuing the ad hocs. All in favor with the aye,
Aye.
all opposed with a nay. No nays, so that carries unanimously.
Who was the support? Sorry.
Ty?
Okay.
Yep. All right, we had no old business, we have no new business. Additional board comments. Does anyone have any additional board comments? I have a quick one. Another thing for us to maybe consider that recently came into my realm of learning is about carbon sequester and carbon capture. I don't know if it is coming in this region yet, but it seems to be coming around the Manistee, Misaki, Wexford area. And they are offering large amounts of money for agricultural lands. So just something for us to look into. I need to look into it a bit more. I have a very vague understanding of what it is, but I know that agricultural lands are important up here. So I just wanted to make mention of that as something maybe to look into in the future. If there's no other board comments, we have our second public comment. Once again, 3 minutes. Do we have any public comment, Dr. Bob? Did you have a timer, Lydia?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Again, I'm Bob Laporte from Elmwood Township. And Matthew, if you want some interest about carbon credits, you should probably go to the U.S. Biochar Initiative website and check it out, because biochar is an incredible source for carbon sequestration. A lot of people are supposed to not be using that, draw down, call it what you want. But there's definitely huge interest now in large corporations and wealthy people who are very much interested in carbon credits. So you could start figuring out what sort of organizations would you be dealing with, and how do you go about getting that set up. There's some good information on that. I have a comment. I haven't been, following. I've been out enjoying my summer and playing a lot of golf, but I'm trying to catch up. One program that Seeds did set up recently, and I'm part of, is for a food scrap biochar drop-off. And we have now 5 facilities in the region. I don't know if it's for all, I think it would suit all 3 of our counties. So these drop-off programs are for keeping track of scraps, and then so that 5 different facilities can make compost. You drop it off for $15 a month, and the average donation that you get to drop off is a 5-gallon bucket. Now, maybe a lot of people know about this, but I myself, I don't make compost in my backyard. I don't mind putting something up, in the garage for a 5-gallon bucket, and I like having the historic barn farm where there's a workshop, and they have a little QR code on a 90-gallon bin, and you know what the codes are so that you can put the lock back up on this 90-gallon bucket. But, if you live out in your Long Lake, you drive right past Silver Lake Road, all you have to do is pull in and drop off your 5-gallon buckets instead of trying to fake it and drop it out in the woods somewhere. And I think it's also very helpful to know. So at the Lively Market, if you have to go out to Empire, if Empire is coming into you, the Lively Market is going to be one of the facilities for a drop-off. Carter Compost downtown, which I think is the one on Woodmere. And then Interlochen is also going to be a facility where you can drop off. So if you're interested in this for $15 a month, that's maybe a lot of money for some people, but Seeds believes in it. And we will be, every time we drop off, they have a comment, you do this little QR code, and they want to know, well, what's your name? Bob Laporte. How much did you donate today? 5-gallon bucket, and then any comments. And then you're taught through some training that Seeds will teach anybody if they want to get involved with this. Because I think it's a great way. I don't know how many people compost, but this is a good way to make it pretty easy to drop off. So that's a public comment.
Awesome, thank you.
You bet.
Do we have any other public comment? Yes, the compost crawl. I don't think we had any notices, so we
Do you have an
can,
extra one of those?
I guess
'Cause I
technically
could
that's
put that
notice,
up at the
but,
Public Services Building.
okay. If there is nothing else, we can take a motion to adjourn at 3 o'clock.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion from TJ. Supported by Corey. All in favor with the aye.
Aye.
All opposed with a nay. That passes unanimously. Thanks for coming to the meeting.